I was in the bathroom the other day at the pool. It was the local pool. Me and my brother and some friends, we were going swimming for the day, and I was like, I gotta take a shit before I go into the pool, of course, because that's me. I must have like a nervous bladder or something. I don't know what it is, but every time it's showtime, every time it's time to go do something or go somewhere or whatever, it's pretty much a meme at this point that guys always. So I have to move my monitor here. It's pretty much a meme at this point that guys like have to take a shit before they do anything or go anywhere. But I think it has something to do with a nervous bladder. I don't know. Either way, it's a fucking. I had to take a shit, so I was going to the stall, and then this guy, because I can't. It's you can't really see out of the stall. It's one of those stalls. It's pretty locked up, and somebody goes into the stall next to me, and I thought it was my brother trying to be funny, or maybe he had to go to the bathroom too. But he like sat down and he just he's just sitting there, and then my brother has like kind of a little patch of fur on his top of his on the top of his feet, just like me. I mean, we're twins, so it's like the exact same little patch of fur. And so I thought it was him, just like, and I'm just sitting. I can't even finish the story. It's too funny because I'm just sitting there I'm like I'm like sniffing intermittently, and I'm like, oh god, that stinks. And I'm like, oh fuck, I'm rotten. What did I eat? Oh, disgusting. This whole time thinking it's my brother next to me in the stall, and then I get outside. I'm done. And I go outside. I'm washing my hands, and then the stall door opens, and it's this completely random. It's completely random guy, and he's just like looking at me like like I'm an insane person. I'm like, I just dried my hands and walked away. Fuck, my life is basically a never-ending embarrassment. That's what I'm trying to say. Welcome everybody back to Not Rich Just Bored, episode number 32. Unfortunately, we did not succeed in locking Ezra Miller up. He is still on the run, so that's fun. But I'm back with you guys. It's it's been kind of a week. There's this weird trend going on right now. Because obviously Stranger Things is trending right now because it's one of the top shows, and it came back after a hiatus, and then they just finished the part two of season four. Yeah, it's season four, part two, which is fucking. I hate when they do that. I hate. It's like just fucking release it, you idiots. Like, why do you gotta just like, oh, we kept two episodes on the back burner just to make you wait. Like, fuck. Like, it's either you release an episode a week, like a mutt, which is the stupidest way to do it, or you just release them all at once, the whole season. Like, why would you release like three quarters of this? Because it's funny because people are like, "Oh, this is only half of season four." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because there was like six episodes or something. Here, I'm gonna look this up. How many episodes are in Stranger Things season four? I just want to look it up just to make sure I'm not talking on my ass. Why does it say there's this Google article that goes Stranger Things season three, season two, and then Ozark season four? That's weird. Um, yeah, yeah. So I was right. It is nine episodes, just like season two, and well, three I think was eight. But yeah, so it's it's nine episodes long, but yeah, it's only the last two episodes. They split it into two volumes, and it doesn't. It makes sense from the if you've watched it, it makes sense like how they set it up, because like the whole beginning part is kind of setting up the backstory of the villain and stuff, and then kind of the you know bring it to a climax in volume 2. But it's just weird that like part 2 is 2 episodes. Like, seems like you could have just released it. But either way, I don't care. Who gives a fuck? Um, it's what the big thing going on right now is like it's, well, it's not a big thing. It's just a small subsect of people, um, and they're talking about how there's all these metal fans that are raging because it's not really a spoiler, I guess, but kind of spoiler alert. I won't give away any serious spoilers, but for Stranger Things. But there's a scene where Eddie, the weird Dungeons and Dragons leader guy, he's kind of a metalhead, and there's a scene where he shreds Master of Puppets to and to do something. I won't say what, but he's shredding on the guitar playing Master of Puppets by Metallica, and there's a bunch of these fans that are a bunch of these metalheads that are going wild, going like, "I'm so sorry if you learned about like Master of Puppets from watching Stranger Things. These aren't real Metallica fans." It's like, what the hell? Like, what? What's and I think a lot of them are just mad because it's all like on TikTok. Like, it's like Master of Puppets is like a popular TikTok thing right now, and TikTok obviously does ruin almost every song ever. Like, any song that becomes a TikTok song pretty much like goes hard and then dies. But there's a lot of metalheads that were upset about it, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Metallica." And then Metallica put out a tweet, or it was Facebook maybe. I think it was both, but they tweeted out like we don't care who watched it, like if they got into Metallica through Stranger Things, like that's we welcome that. It's like if they liked Master, they're gonna like a lot of our other songs, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly it. It doesn't make sense that to me anyway, it doesn't make sense that like people who cares about how somebody learns about a band. Is that the hill you're gonna die on? Is like, I don't know. And the thing is, like, I'm not so much anymore. Like, I still like metal. I still listen to a lot of metal from time to time, but I have to kind of go through phases of metal. Like, I have to be in like a certain mood. But obviously, like, I'm a huge like in high school in my younger years, I was huge metalhead. I loved, like, Megadeth is my favorite band. Metallica is up there. Obviously, they have their whole thing with Dave Mustaine. Because he used to be in Metallica, and then he got kicked out of the band and formed Megadeth, and but Megadeth stands on its own. And I still love. Don't get me wrong, I still love those bands, and I do listen to them quite a bit. But it's just like my major source of music is not just metal anymore, whereas it's kind of everything. But back in high school, there was a lot of um not like the metalheads I went to school with, they're pretty open, but a lot of the metal communities on Facebook and stuff, I noticed that a lot of them are very like stuck up, and like metal is kind of one of those genres that people like. There's no such thing as a casual. You're either full in it or like you're just a poser essentially. So, and I do find that's a lot of metalheads. Unfortunately, they're very close minded, and don't get me wrong, I mean there are open minded ones. I'm not saying everybody listens to metal. Obviously, there's me. I like metal, and I don't give a fuck. Like, I think personally it's good. I'm like, good. These kids that are watching Stranger Things are getting a dose of like some. I don't like to say this term, but some real music. Like they're getting and like Stranger Things has a banger soundtrack from beginning to end. Like the 1 second. It's good on the porch. Thank you. My package just got delivered from Amazon. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's good that it's good that people these days are, learning about this good music through Stranger Things and through other mediums. Like, there's been quite a few series lately that have had really good soundtracks, like from beginning to end. and and yeah, Stranger Things no different. It's all 80s, right? I was kind of wondering actually because they didn't really. I'm trying to think. I haven't watched like the earlier seasons in quite a while, but I'm trying to think. But I don't believe they had any other metal on there yet. It was mostly like 80s pop, like like um, what was it, Corey Hart and stuff, like where like Sunglasses at Night, which is awesome. Like those are still really good tunes, but the 80s was huge for metal, and it fucking breaks my heart when people call it old man metal because I'm like, you mean good metal? Like, but yeah, I love, yeah, Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, um, a, a lot of those bands for that era, and even some of the newer ones like Machine Head, and I mean I don't like to call Machine Head new, but newer than Metallica, we'll say. But yeah, no, those were all really cool. It was a good time for music. What can I say? But so I don't know. The bottom line is I don't care how you learn about this stuff. I don't care. I don't care where you learn about music as long as you enjoy it. It's fine. Like I think people. I think people need to kind of just stay in their lane and just calm down and mostly just choose their battles. It gets a little much, but another funny thing actually is that there's a lot of people, like I said before, there's a lot of people making TikToks and like content about Master of Puppets, and there's this one kid that made a TikTok. I can't remember who. I always say kid, but it's like probably like a 27-year-old, but he made this TikTok being like, "This is a lot like this," and it was like Master of Puppets, and he was comparing it to E1M1 or At Doom's Gate, but the hardcore Doom fans know it as E1M1 because it was the very first level of Doom, and had one of the best songs in the whole game. And it's these young TikTokers, and they're like, "This song, like Master of Puppets, sounds like that." And it's actually ironic that they're saying that the riff from Master sounds like E1M1 because that the actual song that inspired E1M1 from Doom is another Metallica song called No Remorse. And if you listen to like the main riff of the chorus line from No Remorse, it's it's E1M1 to a T. So, and then but yeah, they were just kind of starting to make this whole thing that essentially Doom stole the music. And I'm like, what the hell? Have we gone full circle at this point? Because I remember that used to be a controversy when I was like 18 years old, 17 years old. Like people in like 2006, 2007 were like they're making early YouTube videos about how Doom Software, id Software stole the music. But it's like, no, they didn't steal the music. They made MIDI because back then video games didn't have real soundtracks. Like the sound cards couldn't emulate real sound. It was a what you would call like a MIDI soundtrack. So they just made MIDIs of popular songs, or they made MIDIs that were heavily inspired by certain songs. Like the most blatant one that's definitely obviously a MIDI version is the "Them Bones" by Alice in Chains. I can't remember what the Doom song was called. Chains Doom song. Uh, what? Dirt? No. Uh, Till. I think it's called Till. Yeah. But yeah, there's Bye Bye American Pie. There's all kinds of music. Like I don't think Doom was like id Software wasn't trying to like steal music. They were just it's just MIDI format of their favorite songs, like because it was kind of a legal gray area at the time. Because it's not you're not ripping the song technically because it's just a MIDI. But fuck, that just reminds me though of I remember like me and my buddies back in like this is showing how old we are for the internet and stuff. Is like I remember we had like MIDI wars back in the day. Like it was like a badge of honor whoever had like the most MIDI soundtracks on their computer. And I remember having like a folder and calling it like MIDIs, right? And that we would play them on like Windows Media Player while we gamed and stuff, and then we'd throw them on like a CD and burn them. And then I remember I had like a whole CD. This is all boomer speak to you guys. I'm sorry if you're young, but yeah, we would burn it on CDs, and like I had like these CDs. It was like uh it would be like like One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII, the MIDI version though, and oh, it's too funny. I was just thinking back to that. I'll have to get Dylan. He's one of our old buddies. I'll have to get him on the podcast sometime and get him to talk about the old MIDI wars because those were too funny. it it also reminds me of another fucking. There's gonna be a lot of background noise in this podcast between the Amazon driver and sirens and the dogs barking. Holy fuck! And I apologize. I should be more sound sensitive and more professional, but it is hotter than a fucking the devil's tuchus in here, and I have to keep these windows open. Otherwise, I'll short circuit my computer from sweat. It's fucking gross, but it's true. Um. So yeah, let's move on. The next thing, this was something that happened. I think it was early last week, but I wanted to talk about it. Um, and this is one of the problems because I've talked about games done quick before, like GDQ. I've talked about them before and how um, I don't really like the way they're going these days. I feel like they're kind of they're going downhill in a way, and they're just, I don't know, they're just, they're too big for the britches. Essentially, um, they're becoming like really mainstream. So they're kind of bowing down to all the woke bullshit to try to stay relevant, and like it's cringy enough, but either way, I still have a lot of respect for the speedrunning community, so I do like to tune into certain runs and try to not die of cringe. Uh, like like back in the day, GDQ used to be cringe because there was just weird, awkward nerds being weird, awkward nerds. But that was the good kind of cringe, and that's kind of the cringe that I lived for. It was fun and it was kind of wholesome. But like the cringe now is just seeing something go from uh yeah a niche um seeing something go from a niche audience kind of thing to now going to a mainstream uh yeah basically going to a mainstream uh business model. It's a business now. It's not just a bunch of nerds in a basement, speedrunning games being cool. It's a fucking business now. So if it were up to me, I would recommend watching DeuceCon. Hopefully he comes back. DeuceCon is run by Deuceler. He's a speedrunner. If you look him up, I don't know. I'll look him up right now. Fuck, that was cancer. Okay, Deuceler speedruns. Uh, what the fuck? Uh, let's look up DeuceCon. Sorry, it is a smaller channel, so it's hard for it to come up. Oh yeah, this is the what the hell? Oh, weird. I guess he doesn't have anything set to playlist because when I went to his channel, the channel's called Deuceler Speedruns. So DEUCELER Speed Runs. And yeah, he's only got 194 subs. Um, I'm gonna subscribe. I didn't realize I'm not subscribed to him on the Not Rich Just Bored channel, but I am on my personal channel because I love watching these guys. But yeah, he did. I guess the last one he did was 3 years ago, so it would have been before COVID. But it's another like speed run. Um, it it's essentially a speed run marathon he kind of does with his friends, and essentially what he's doing is it's kind of like it's kind of like um fuck, I'm sorry, I'm so fucking tired today, but it's fucking annoying. But it's a lot like, it gives me vibes of like the old GDQ. So it's just, I don't know, it's better. That's I like a smaller kind of speedrun thing. It's not all woke and fucking stupid. But either way, check out Deucler. He seems like a solid dude. I definitely have him on the podcast. That's for sure. But either way, let's get back to what we were talking about originally. So yeah, this is just another problem with games done quick that I have, and that's that. This is a statement from GDQ. Yesterday we were made aware that Mechazarium, which that's a speedrunner, he played a segmented video for his DLC run at Summer Games Done Quick 2022. Mechazarium has since admitted to this, both to some members of the community as well as directly to GDQ staff. He contacted our staff with a document detailing that he had planned this for over a month, demonstrating this was planned and intentional. This was made possible because of the remote nature of this particular run in the marathon. This is an absolute unacceptable. Okay, this is absolutely unacceptable, should say there, and attempts to undermine the integrity of the speedrunning community that we love and support. The exact result they desired was unclear from the document, but it is clear that they believed we would not be willing to speak out about their behavior. However, we believe it is in the community's best interest to know why this run was removed by GDQ. Uh, we have removed Mechazarium's runs from our YouTube archive and will not permit him to run in the future. Okay, so Mechazarium. Um, I'm just gonna look him up quick here because I'm actually not familiar with. Okay, it looks like the one he was running was Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So I'm not. That's not one of the speed games that I typically watch. So I'm not really familiar with Mechazarium, but this just gave me a chance to talk about it, about how because of COVID and they're all woke, right? So they're basically still, even though the whole COVID pandemic thing is over right now, as far as we know, um, oh, excuse me, um, Games Done Quick is still offering runners to run games remotely. So basically, if you don't want to show up to the event, or you can't show up to the event, or you're scared you're going to catch COVID or something, you could do what's called a remote run. So essentially, you just you link your Twitch to them. Like, they basically just, you share your screen with GDQ and your webcam, and then it's as if you're doing the speed run there, but from the comfort of your home. So, what it doesn't matter what you feel about games done quick, like themselves, or sorry, COVID. It doesn't matter what you feel about COVID. Rather, uh, that when you do stuff like this, when you allow people to do remote runs, it to me, it leads the way for all kinds of fuckery. And I do not agree with it. I think it's stupid. If you're gonna, I mean, when they're doing what when you're doing games done quick, typically you don't try. I don't want to say you don't try your best, but typically you don't do the craziest strats, you know? Typically you do safe strats, and it's more about showing off the game and, you know, just showing people how it works. And, you know, there's things that are called safe strats where you know, it's stuff that, you know, won't soft lock the game or anything like that. So it's not technically competitive, but some people have set world records at GDQ, but whatever. The point is, it's not like super competitive, but either way, it's still meant to be a legitimate speed run. So if you do happen to make a world record or something like that, then it counts as a world record. But when you allow people to do shit remotely with COVID, I like, in my opinion anyway, you are opening up the world of hurt, which is all kinds of suck fuckery that can go on. Like, there's so many ways they can cheat. And in this guy's, according to the article there, Mecha just, what he did was he made a segmented run. So what a segmented run is, you take every split from a run and you splice it all together, usually at like loading points or level transitions. You splice the run together. I'm assuming that's what they mean. I'm assuming that's what happened. Was he spliced all of his best segments together and made this video, and then when it was time to do the speed run, he just played the video. And I guess it's Metal Gear, so it's, I don't know if he's playing on PlayStation or whatever, if he had a controller or not, but I'm guessing he just faked button presses and stuff while the video played. I don't know. But either way, you know, he had that whole thing going on, and it's just it's stupid. And one of my favorite games to watch competitively is Hearthstone. I like watching the Hearthstone World Champions, even though I haven't played it in years and I don't really understand the new cards. Like, I basically have to learn the new cards as I watch the Masters. But it's just cool to watch people competitively play, especially a card game. But when they did the COVID thing, they did it the same way. They did it remotely. So people were at home playing Hearthstone on their own computers against other people playing on their own computers. Now, how do they not cheat? You know what I mean? Like, what's to stop that guy that's playing competitively? What's to stop him from just having the Twitch stream open in another tab and looking at it? And I know a lot of people say, well, there's a minute delay or there's whatever delay, right? There's a delay in the stream. I think they said it's a minute or two, or I don't know. Either way, they said, so it doesn't really matter. But it's like, well, in a game like Hearthstone, for those masters, for them to get the competitive advantage, all they gotta know is your hand. Like, even if it's a hand from a couple hands ago, if there's 2 minute delay or whatever, you could still see your opponent's hand and be like, oh, they have that board wipe, so I'm not gonna do this. Or they have that board wipe, or this or that, they have that enchantment, or whatever. You know, it's when you do things remotely, there's so many ways people could cheat. And if you think people wouldn't, then you're just ignorant. So it doesn't surprise me that somebody did cheat. I was surprised it took this long. Like, I'm surprised nobody got caught during COVID when everything was pretty much remote. But it's just like, yeah, I don't agree with people doing remote runs or any kind of competitive thing like that remotely, because yeah, you're just opening up a can of worms where the chances, I mean, speedrunning's a little bit different than like competitive Hearthstone stuff, because obviously you're not doing it for money or anything. But it's just it always it's always fucky. You never know. You never know if somebody's gonna do something sketchy. So I don't know. Either way, I think personally from GDQ, I don't know. Obviously, what Mecha did was wrong. I think it was like pretty stupid of him to do that. As if, especially, why did he do it and then admit it to people? Like he- like he has since admitted to this, like to members of the community and to the staff. Like it just, I don't. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. E- Either way, I guess he probably knew that he'd get caught. Carl Jobst would have been on his ass, which would have been hilarious. But I'm surprised. I haven't looked actually at Carl's channel, but I'm surprised he hasn't done a video on this. Maybe he has. No, he hasn't. Okay, I just checked. But yeah, either way, I think the whole not permitting him to run in the future, I think that's a little excessive. I understand. I understand that like cheaters should not, like they should not be, they should have the strictest like punishment for it. But at the end of the day, it's not like he was hacking or anything. It technically was real footage. It was just segmented. So I don't know. I think a few years off would have been good enough, maybe. And I don't think they need to remove the rest of his runs, because if they're live at GDQ, then obviously they weren't cheating. But I don't know. Either way, obviously, it's his fault. I mean, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. But I don't know. I guess sorry, Mecca. Uh, maybe I'll get him on maybe I'll get him on the podcast to defend his position. I'll call it Mecca versus GDQ live on Norwich Just Board Radio. Okay, that was scary. But moving on from that, uh, yeah, I don't really know what else to say on that one. Don't do remote runs, GDQ, you fucking idiots, because literally just leads to cheating and fuckery. But this next kind of subject is like a little, it's kind of a weird one for me, but it's one that I've been noticing, another trend, much like the Stranger Things um Eddie phenomenon playing Master. There's another phenomenon that I've noticed and it's that um uh people saying that any kind of fandom. The one I've been seeing a lot of is Star Wars, but this goes without saying. Like it goes for every fandom, but there's this whole trend of people calling people who don't like the new Star Wars content or the new like episode 7 and 9 or the Disney Plus editions, calling them toxic fans, or calling them like like every time you hate on a sequel, you're toxic. And it's like I think that's just fucking stupid. Like honestly, you guys are just being fucking losers at this point and being ignorant. Because like everybody's like, oh, it'll be like me avoiding the toxic Star Wars fans and enjoying my fandom. It's like, yeah, there are some people that are fucking dickheads about their opinion. That's true, but it if you don't like the new trilogy, that doesn't make you toxic. It's called an opinion, and I think they're okay for what they're worth. Like I think the movies are fine, but like, yeah, are they very derivative of the old trilogy? 100% fucking. Episode 7 is so incredibly similar to the first Star Wars, like Episode 4. They're so incredibly similar in plot lines that it's laughable. So I mean, like, is that toxic to point shit out like that? Does it mean that I hate that movie? No, but it's just people need to realize that it's okay to have opinions, and it's okay to think older things were better. Like, so I grew up watching Star Wars with my dad. My dad, I remember very vividly that we had a weekend alone, and he's like, "You need to see these movies. Like, you're old enough. Like, these are, you need to watch these and remember these because they're fun." And we went to our local video store. Yeah, video store. Holy shit! It was actually the video store that I ended up working at later in life, which was kind of funny. But um, you know, we went to this video store and he rented the three Star Wars movies, which was Star Wars, back then it was just called Star Wars, and then it was called, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, and then Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. And he's like, "You need to watch these." And I'm like, "Okay." And we watched them over the course of the weekend. And yeah, blew my fucking mind. I love those movies. I was just a kid, but I was obsessed with it. I wanted to be Luke Skywalker so bad. I wanted to like go and I wanted to get like a lightsaber and go and like swing it around. I'd always pretend I was a Jedi. We had like a trampoline next to a house. It was our neighbor's house, but he was like this old guy. But we used to climb up on his house, and then we'd jump onto our trampoline from his house. Like it was weird. It was a weird situation because it was like a really old house. Like it kind of had to be there to see it, but it was like a really low. It was like a low roof on the one end. Like literally these days, if I was standing next to that roof, the bottom of the shingles would come up to like my torso. It was it was a weird house, but either way, um, we would jump off the trampoline onto the house, and then on from the house to the trampoline. I pretend like I was a Jedi, like back flipping or front flipping on. It was just fun. It captured the imagination, and then like I heard it was in I was 10 years old, and there was a new Star Wars film coming out, and I was like, oh my god. So I got so excited, and it was called Episode One, and it was a prequel to the original, and it was going to be the story of like Anakin, and like when Anakin's just a boy. And I remember like I shit my pants. And there's a lot of people from that era. Again, those were the first Star Wars films that came out when I was a kid. Was episodes 1, 2, and 3. And they came out from when I was a kid till when I was, almost through high school. Revenge of the Sith came out. And, I love those movies so much. I love the prequels a lot. But I also love the originals because my dad introduced me to them. But then the more I grew up, there was a bunch of people that were shitting on the prequels. It was like the cool thing to do. But like a lot of people didn't like them. But I was like not with the mainstream at all. I was like, actually, I fucking love those movies. And even to this day, episode 1, I guess I guess 2 as well, but 1 and 3 for sure have the best lightsaber battles in the film. Like in all of them. Like Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, fucking legendary. Uh Even something as simple as like Count Dooku fighting Anakin and Obi-Wan, like fucking badass. Obi-Wan versus Anakin was fucking iconic, and it gives me shivers every time. But like we haven't seen shit like that since. And it was emotional and it was really good, especially Revenge of the Sith. Like I remember crying when like Anakin, finally bit the big one, got his ass burnt, and then that's how he kind of turned into Darth Vader. And like it was, you know, it it was an experience, man. You had to be there. But a lot of people, like, yeah, they were just hating on him. They're like, these sequels are trash. But they're old school Star Wars fans, and it's just it's always a trend. There's always gonna be people that grew up with something, and they're not gonna like the new ones. It's just like how again I grew up with these ones, and you know to me they're objectively better than the new ones, and the old ones are even better than the new. They're better than the new ones as well. But the prequels to me had the best action of all those series. Like I really like those movies. But there's gonna be some kids that grew up seeing episodes 7, 8, and 9. And they're gonna be, that's gonna be their favorite, right? Because they grew up with it. And they might watch the old ones and have respect for them, that's true. But then, there'll be a new brand of Star Wars that'll come out in 10 years for them, right? There'll be episodes 10, 11, 12 or something. And, they'll be hating on them for something, right? So it kind of is cyclical. It always happens like that. But I think that it's okay for people to have those opinions. Like, it's not, you know, like I said, it was the same as the people that hated episode 1, 2, and 3. I wasn't sitting there back and like I wasn't sitting there like 01 or 06 even being like, you guys are really toxic. Like you're toxic fan base hating the new shit. It's like no, it's just people's opinions. Fuck, like but everybody has to do that. It's always like toxic. Everything's toxic these days. It's like no, you know what's toxic? All right? Fucking raid. Fucking Roundup. Roundup is toxic, all right? For real, Roundup is toxic. What's not toxic is having an opinion on a fucking video game or a movie franchise. Like, get over your fucking self, people. Either way, I'm gonna move on. This is like this kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on today. And it's kind of a big it is a big thing. It's a big subject for me. But um last week I was busy and I did that short podcast and then after that I was good and moved on with my week and I ended up going to the lake with my kids and hanging out with them and I just I really did I just needed a break. It's nice to it it feels really good to go to a place where your phone doesn't ring. Like where there's nothing going on. It's just kind of peace and quiet and just your job or your worries for the day is just surviving. Cutting wood, relaxing at the beach, starting a fire, roasting a marshmallow. It's really good to it's really good just to relax once in a while. And I kind of had like a meltdown on social media last week before I went because I've just been like lately I don't know. I really don't know how to characterize how I'm feeling. I don't know if it's I don't know. I don't know if it's anxiety or if it's like a bout of depression, but it's just like the world lately just has been so bleak. And I've talked about it on the podcast before about how like it's just with the housing prices, with the inflation, and like when the guy's got all this shit to pay for and everything is just going up and up and up in price. But the only thing that's not going up is wages, and it frustrates me so much. It's the one thing I hate and I don't want is I don't want to be resentful. I don't. I try not to be resentful, but it's all I could think of this whole week, and it's just like I see a lot of people that I know, and they're doing shit with their lives and they're moving on. They got all this stuff and I'm happy for them, but at the same time, part of me is like I'm trying to figure out the puzzle. Trying to figure out the trick. And that's why I had a meltdown on social media. I was just saying like we need to normalize this shit. We need to stop. and I hate saying normalize because it just makes me cringe internally because it makes me think of all those old people on like TikTok and shit, like normalize tipping waitresses, all that fucking whatever. It's a whole fucking people trying to police the world, but for me, it's a positive for all because I think people need to realize and wake up a little bit and just stop playing the game. I said 600 times. I'll say it 600 times more. When did shelter, a basic human right, basic human need, when did that become fucking an investment? And like that's all it is, man. And it's just housing is so fucking expensive. And I did some quick calculations the other day based off my income and everything, like $235,000 house. And like with the money I take home, I could afford all my bills and I'd have $300 left at the end of the month. But the $300, that's without food or anything for my children. And yeah, that's not feasible. And that's for a cheap house. Where I'm located, a cheap house is like 235,000. Your average is like 300 plus. So to me, that's not feasible. And I think a lot of us, like, there's a lot of things that have been, again, I don't like to say normalized, but there's a lot of things that have been normalized, and we think they're normal because it's just how it's been forever. But we need to start fighting back against this shit because there's no good reason. There's no good reason why a house should be like there's no reason it should be 300,000. Like a house should be like $100,000 maximum. Like that's the top. But it like they're just too expensive for what people are making right now. Let alone food and everything else. Like I said, groceries doubled. Gas doubled. Utilities doubled. Wages? No. No, we're good where we are. Like, I don't know. I've just been having like this insane bout with depression lately and just hopelessness. It doesn't, and there's people that have tried to like, not fight me, but, debate me on it, talk to me about stuff. And I appreciate everybody's input and I appreciate, everybody's thoughts on the subject matter. But at the end of the day, like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? And, I did get into a little spat about, how we have all these luxuries these days where our parents didn't when housing was cheaper. But, like, eh, I was trying to explain to people that I don't, I don't think that like my parents' generation, for example, they're not. I guess they're technically boomers. I guess maybe, but like the thing about my parents is that yeah, they struggled to buy a house. I'm not saying they didn't struggle because my parents were not rich at all. They weren't. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that the boomer generation, everybody's just rich and had 16 houses. I'm saying that that's the generation when housing was affordable, and that's the generation when you could afford a house on a single income. They still weren't priced like it's not like it was cheap. It's not like you can go out and buy 16 houses and be good to go. Um, because obviously there's an inflation of everything. But from their time to our time, at some point wages stopped. Everything else kept going. It kept going out of control. The price of everything. But at some point, wages stopped. And it's been the last few years that wages have become really stagnant. But people are suffering more than ever. And some people try to say it's the Starbucks coffee you get. It's all, your Netflix and all that. But I just don't think so. And people, people say that, internet is a luxury and all that. But I would argue that internet and cell phone, while they're technically a luxury, it's a fucking necessity these days. Okay? Like, name a job where you don't name a job where you wouldn't where you wouldn't need to have access to internet or access to a cellular phone. Like, come on. That's stuff you need, you know? And people are like, well, our parents didn't have it, so they didn't have those expenses, so they had more. But it's like they had the same expenses, just their our their telephones became cell phones. Their cable bill and their satellite bill became streaming platforms. We have technically the same, whatever you want to call them, luxuries or whatever, but it's not like we're paying a lot. It's not like people. Some people are acting like we have all these, like, it's because we're buying all this extra shit per month. But it's like, well, no, it's the same shit. Like, my parents had satellite later in life, like around 2004 or whatever. They had, or no, it would have been 2000, I guess. They had satellite at the time, and satellite channels and stuff was equal to about $120. And then, internet on top of that was probably 80 to $100 at the time. All bundled in. It was like a $200 package. And, that's fine. But nowadays, it's like that $120 satellite package, that's now, it's technically cheaper for me because that's your Netflix subscription, your Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all that stuff. It all those subscriptions. It went from paying Shaw or whoever for satellite to paying multiple companies to use their platforms to just watch movies on demand. That's what's changed to. And all of our news, like CNN and MSNBC and Fox, whatever, that's all YouTube. It's online. It's all on the internet. You don't need TV for it anymore. So it's, I don't know. To me, that's a bullshit argument saying that it's because we're spending more on services. It's just the services have changed. And even then, it's like, for me personally, I have other people's Netflix and Hulu and Disney and all that. I've watched it like on other people that I know that have it. They were sharing their password and stuff. But like the only subscription I pay for is Amazon Prime, and I still and I'm still struggling to get by. So like I'm definitely not splurging. And like I don't go to Starbucks. If I get coffee, I get fucking Tim Hortons, maybe, or a McDonald's coffee. Like, I don't know. I just it goes back to this whole thing, and it sucks because a lot of people are just, they're stuck in this mindset because they're trained, right? People are trained to think one way because of the past. They're trained to think that, well, houses are just that expensive because that's how expensive houses are, and the just everything. There's kind of a cultural revolution that I want to spark, and I want people to start admitting to. I want people to start waking up to the possibilities of, like, life doesn't have to be what people tell you that it is. There's no reason for this shit. There's no reason utilities should be so expensive. There's no reason that there's no reason for housing prices to be out of control. Taxation's fucking out of control. You get taxed on your money when you receive it. Like, I think we should abolish income tax personally. And that sounds radical, and it is. But like, honestly, fuck. Like, can you imagine how many like issues that would solve right there? Not getting taxed on your income? And it's like, well, then how would we pay for anything? But they always say billionaires don't pay taxes. I'm like, well, the guys that are supposed to pay all taxes don't pay taxes supposedly, so it shouldn't affect anything, right? But to me, it's just like, I honestly think, even if you want to get crazy about it, people that make under $100,000, even, you should not be taxed for income tax. Put it something like that, because you know what? the thing is, you're gonna get taxed either way. But the way it is right now, it's fucked. It's out of control. You get income tax, so you get taxed on your money as you get paid, and then after that, you get taxed when you spend it. So like you're getting taxed multiple times, just to use your money or to have your money. So how does that make sense? I'm just closing my window. People are outside talking. I don't want it to pollute the audio. But back to what I was saying, if I can remember. Um, yeah, I don't. I just, I, I think it's ridiculous that people get taxed on their paychecks. It just like again, we just accept it because it's normal, right? It's always been a normal thing, but it really doesn't make sense at the end of the day. And it's like, oh, it's to pay, pay for infrastructure and blah blah blah. Bullshit. Like, fucking, when I spend my money, there, there's your tax right there. You got some tax there, you know. And maybe if we did pay politicians and pay like heads of state and heads of government, maybe if we did pay them like a ridiculous salary, maybe we'd be able to cut taxes a little bit. Like, ugh, fuck. It just like, I think we need to stop. I think we need to stop having this weird mindset that things are the way they are and there's no changing it. Because I think people can change it. If we stand together, I think we can change the world. There's power in numbers, and we have a hell of a lot more numbers than, the powers that be. So, you know, and on the other hand of that, there's another thing that's like employees, right? Employees are starting to speak up and get their own rights, because that's another thing. People are thankful for jobs. I used to say it myself even. It's like, oh, well, I'm just thankful I have a job, and I'm thankful for my employer and blah blah blah. All that's like, fuck that. Fuck that. Your employer should be happy to have you. That's the way it should be. They should be gracious that you're willing to lend your time and your effort to build their dream and their company. That's what should be going on. Because at the end of the day, I know nobody wants to fucking hear this, but it's true. Companies need you. You don't need companies. They fucking need you. These companies that are billion-dollar companies, million-dollar companies, they need workers like you. So if you treat them like shit, don't be surprised when they turn tail and run. There's like this whole thing that people are making more money switching jobs every year or two than they are staying with a company for 20 years. And that's because companies get complacent. They treat you like shit. It's always happened. And like a simple example, and this is due to inflation and everything else. My brother, way back in the day, I think I told this actually before, maybe, but this is way back in the day. But my brother was working at Sobeys for like $7 an hour, like bullshit wage, right? But that was the wage at the time, and that was pretty decent for a high school kid. And he was getting paid $7 an hour, and we got a few raises over the years, and blah 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 blah. And then I think he was at like almost $9 at one point when he was almost done high school, and then they were hiring new kids on, so they were hiring these new people, part time and full time, mostly part time, but they were new hires. And Kyle, through all of his raises and stuff, was making, like I said, around probably nine, I think at the time, maybe like 8.75. But they were hiring new people because minimum wage had went up. They were hiring new kids for $11 an hour. So just think about that for a second. And they didn't raise his wage up at all. They just kept the same. And why? Because they can. Because they can. because you don't get grandfathered. You don't get grandfathered in to anything. There is that whole. I mean, now it is different now, but it's still not different. Like for minimum wage, if you were below minimum wage, then there's a problem. But back then it's like minimum wage was 7, so and then I think maybe minimum wage was 11. I don't know what it was after, but yeah, kids were getting hired, but the old people like my brother that were already working there, they did not get a raise. They didn't get bumped up, and that's just the sign of a predatory system. It's because they don't care. They just they just want their money, and they want if they got this old grandfathered in employee and they could pay him less, well, why not? It's just I don't know. It's fucking silly. But there's real research and real studies showing that people that switch jobs every 1 to 2 years uh make like 50% more income than people that don't. So if you're feeling unappreciated at work, maybe it's high time you quit. Go somewhere else, try something new. Um, Start building your dream. You know, that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast and with I'm there's a couple other things that I don't want to spill the beans, but there's some other stuff, and I want this like not rich just bored is the podcast, but I want to branch it out. There's the podcast, and I love the podcast, but I want it to be almost a brand. I want not rich just bored to be like a brand, not just a podcast. I want it to be a whole brand with different channels and merch and stuff. It's just it's a dream, and it's some you just gotta do it. You gotta put the effort in. You gotta. There's not an easy way. There's no easy way to success. You just gotta put in the time and keep doing it. And if you can have fun along the way, that's good. And I really do hope my attitude improves. You know, and I'm trying to give this my all. And some days it's hard because I am fucking tired because I've been having a lot of problems lately. I just like I said, between this whole financial crisis and just you know trouble with people and problems at work and not feeling you just you know there's feelings of not being appreciated. There's feelings of just the system in general, not just your job, but just the system is screwed, and it doesn't feel like there's a way out. And I hate being such a fucking downer on here. I really do, but I think, and I've said this before. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's much better to be authentic. You shouldn't fake a smile if you're not smiling. You know, and it's funny because this is like a comedy-esque podcast, and I like it to I like comedy. I love comedy. It's my favorite thing in the world, and I'd like to get back to more comedy style stuff, but it's just it's tough. It's tough when the world feels like it's collapsing around you, and you're drowning in debt, and you're giving it your all for a company, and you don't feel like you're getting your slice of the pie. It's and then you come home and you got to do other things. There's the kids. You got to make sure they're entertained. You got to make sure they're happy. And I want to try to put on a good show for you guys on here. Try to make sure it's as entertaining or at least insightful. And I know obviously people could tell like when I'm tired, and it it's just this whole financial thing and everything. It's been leaking into everything I do. Like I feel sorry for my fucking coworkers because I have been I've been probably the grumpiest, pissiest person in the world at work and everywhere. It's just I'm just in general, I'm not in a good mood because I feel like I feel betrayed by my country. I really do. And that's why I needed that weekend away from cell service. Just have a little bit of mercy, get close to the kids, get back to what's important. Because ultimately, everything I'm doing is for my kids. And ultimately, it's just, I want, I don't want them to suffer like I am right now. And I feel like it's going to be worse than it is for me. So I want to make sure they have a jumping off point and make sure they have knowledge so that it's not harder. And maybe, just maybe, we could change the world along the way so that they're not put into a predatory system like I am, So they don't have to deal with people that are making billions and billions off of monopolizing the housing market. But hey, a boy can dream. But yeah, I got a little bit more real there at the end. But hey, you guys know me. I don't fuck around. I just like to keep it real. I like to be honest about how I'm feeling, because the thing about being fake or not being genuine with people is that they could sniff it out like a fucking bloodhound. People could tell when you're being disingenuous. So I just want to try to the biggest thing for me is just, it would just be nice to one day, and I think it was Brian Callen who said this. He's a comedian. I'm pretty sure he said, like, you've made it, like, money wise. He said, you've made it when you can go out for dinner at any time and not worry about what you ordered. And that's true. That's exactly what it is. That's what I want. I just want something like that. Because he goes on to say, like, anything past that is just bullshit. That's where, you get into your supercars and your muscle cars and, all your crazy shit. But you know what? If I had just a fucking nice 5-bedroom house or something with my own office, a nice gaming PC, send my kids to good schools if that's what they want to do when they're older. That's it. I don't need a Ferrari. I don't I don't need a Lamborghini. Although I'd like a Lamborghini because I fucking love those things. They look so cool. But I don't need all that shit. I just want to get to that point where I don't have to worry. I know I can buy groceries. I know I can go out if I want to. I know I can watch all the Netflix I want. Not worry about it. I just and that's what anybody wants. But it's hard when the world is going so crazy. But I'm gonna stop rambling and end the episode here. So thank you guys for I always say watching. I'm so used to my old YouTube video days. Thank you guys for watching. It's been Code Man. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to follow the podcast on all social media. Links are in the description below. And don't forget to check me out on Twitch. I actually streamed a little while ago some Phasmophobia. Hopefully I'll get another stream in at some point. Maybe some Castlevania at twitch.tv/codemanliness. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.